watching Extravaganza. I'm Angie with Five Rivers MetroParks Outdoor Recreation Program. This program is supported by Subaru of America, and we're here today to check out a variety of cooking styles while you're out camping.
And I'm Brent. I'll be monitoring questions, so if you have questions that you want to ask our cooks, feel free and we'll pass those along. So thanks for joining us here at Inglewood Metro Park, and you ready to go?
Let's do this.
Let's go see what we find.
So we've got three expert cooks back here that are going to be showing us a variety of ways to cook. So whether you're looking at cooking over a campfire or maybe a little bit something more simple like a small backpacking stove, we're going to show you different options, pros and cons, tips and tricks, and hopefully they'll cook up some delicious food that we can at least watch them sample today.
I can't wait to see what we're going to find when we get to these cooks. Are these professional chefs, you said?
Basically, yes.
Basically?
They all work for Five Rivers Metro Park, have lots of experience cooking, and here they are hard at work. So we've got Jordan here. He's going to show us a few different options for cooking over the campfire. Jordan, you want to share with us what kind of cooking you're doing today?
Sure. Right now, I've got two things going on. I'm going to work on a third pretty soon. But for the first, I actually have a cast iron skillet, and I've got it right in the fire, and my coals right here. Not cast iron, Dutch oven. So it's right here, this Dutch oven. It's in there. In there, I have a chicken pot pie going on. So I started off throwing my chicken diced up in the bottom of that right there over the fire without the lid on there, with a little bit of oil. Got it completely cooked, everything nice and white and cooked up. Then I went ahead and added in some canned veggies, added in some mushroom soup, and right here actually, all those ingredients right here. Some green beans, some cream of chicken soup as well, the carrots, peas, and potatoes. Added all that then into that right there, layered it up, and then on top of it, I put a whole thing of biscuits on top, so it's going to create a nice layer on top, nice and brown. So once that was done, then I threw my lid back on, put it in the fire, put some coals on top of it, and I got it baking for about 45 minutes. So check back in later and we'll see what we got in there.
All right, thanks, Jordan. We'll walk around, meet our other cooks, and we'll come back and check on Jordan because this is going to be cooking for a little while.
If anybody has any questions for Jordan, type those in the comments, and let's get him some questions out there.
All right, so next up we have Angela over here.
Hi.
Cooking on this 2-burner stove. Ann, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're cooking?
Yeah, I'm making up some breakfast here. This is one of my favorite camping breakfasts and the most requested from my friends. We're making some breakfast burritos this morning.
Wow, what do you got cooking there in that pan?
All right, so I'm cooking up sausage in this pan. And this is the secret ingredient that really makes those breakfast burritos bounce in your mouth. And these are hash browns. So I'm frying up some hash brown patties here.
Look at that, and it's nice that you can have 2 burners going at once for a more intricate meal there.
Yes, I'll have a third item I'll need to cook in a little bit, which will be the eggs. So I'm going to get these done first. The eggs, the sausage, and the potatoes can kind of sit and wait, but the eggs you really want warm, and then it'll melt your cheese.
Okay, great. Well, we'll head over to Margaret and we'll check back in. So Margaret's over here with a little bit more simple cooking setup. Margaret, can you tell us a little bit about what you got going on?
I have the easiest job today. I have to boil some water, so I'm making a quick breakfast rice with the jet boiled. So I just put in some boiled water in the bag, put it in my koozie, and let it sit for about 10-15 minutes, and I can have my breakfast rice. And then for next week's holiday in here, I'm going to be making some turkey stuffing. So it's going to be pretty good, and all I need is that boiling water.
So you're telling me you're cooking right in that Ziploc freezer bag there?
Yes.
Easy cleanup.
Easy cleanup. I just take it out of the bag, I can put it in my bowl, I can eat it right out of the bag with a spoon, whatever I want, and then I get rid of it, and that's it. The trick is make sure that there's Ziploc and the freezer bags. If you get something that's an off-brand, it probably won't work.
Good tip.
And I have the first comment has come in. I want to recognize that Trailblazing Hope Outdoors and Jonathan Slider both say they love you guys. So good job.
Awesome.
Good job.
We love you too, Jonathan.
Anybody have any questions? Let's get them rolling.
All right, so we've kind of taken a look at our 3 different setups here, and I just wanted to talk a minute about why you might choose one of these options. So depending a lot on the trip that you're headed out on, or how much of your time really you want to spend in front of a fire or in front of a stove cooking, it's really all about personal preference. So some people, when they're out camping or even backpacking, cooking is really part of the experience for them. For others, maybe they want to spend most of their day out hiking or doing other activities and want a really quick meal like a freezer bag option. So a lot of it is really personal preference. It might also depend on the quantity of people you're cooking for. So let's head back over to this Dutch oven and talk to Jordan a little bit more about, Jordan, do you know approximately how many people this huge pot pie could feed? Have you used it before?
Yes, this one right here is just right for about 4 or 5 people. So it really just depends on, you can actually amp it up, add more chicken breasts in there, with more cans, to really amp it up to about 8 or so for this right here. So you can really have it, right now have about 4 people dialed into a day. So.
Awesome. And I see that it looks like you have it going over hot coal. So I wouldn't necessarily use a Dutch oven on just a big flame fire. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. I actually built this fire about 10:30 or so to get these coals all nice and ready to go for this right here. So it was ready to go today. Got the logs all split and ready to go. Got them heated up, and now it's just like fine charcoal in there with that right there. But that being said, you can also cook with charcoal. Some people actually prefer cooking with charcoal too because it's a little more precise. It's not like just kind of feeling it out and knowing what you're doing. It's like each briquette actually represents 40 degrees, I believe. So you can actually space it out and figure out how much heat you're actually getting from those briquettes. So if you cook your briquettes ahead of time, get them ready to go, then push them underneath of it, and then on top of it as well, you can space them out to get equal amounts of heat on top and bottom. So, talking about those though, but there's actually another meal you can cook without much fancy stuff going on, just with some aluminum foil.
Let's hear about it. Do we have one of those going?
We do have one going, and I got another one right here I'm getting ready to throw up in there, so I'm going to go ahead and demo how to build one of these. So, I've got some potatoes, carrots, and onions. They are all cut up and ready to go. I cut those up earlier this morning, so I put them in a Ziploc bag, so not a lot of prep when you're out, just having those ready to go can actually help out so that you don't have to do a lot of stuff when you're out camping. Because I know sometimes that's a bummer to do when you're out. Making it as easy as possible can be good. So there it is, ready to go. So I'm going to dump some of these in the foil. All right, then right on top of that foil, I've actually got a hamburger patty ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, open that up, and then without contaminating my hands or anything, I'm just gonna plop it right on top. So there we got our little bit of meat on there too. So now I'm gonna wrap it up in the foil and then throw it right in the fire for about half hour or so.
Awesome. That looks pretty simple. It doesn't require much equipment.
And Angie, we have a question for Margaret if we want to go.
Yes, let's head on over to Margaret.
So Margaret, the people out there in the world, they want to know, does boiling water do anything to the plastic bags like BPA's love? Like Mary Clunk is actually the one asking this question. She loves the simplicity of it, but wonders about the BPA and the plastic.
Well, that's a very good question. As far as I know, I don't think that there's any major issues with that. Angie, do you have any information on it?
Yeah, I don't believe Ziplocs have BPA. Another little bit more environmentally friendly option is to buy a silicone bag. So they make reusable. It's basically like a Ziploc but made out of silicone. That you could do the same thing and then wash it and reuse it. So that's another great option. Those are definitely BPA free. Good question, Mary.
And Mary says, Jordan, that looks great. So she hopes to someday have that meal at home.
All right, let's look at Ange over here. Ange, Jordan was showing us a little bit about how he pre-prepared some things in a Ziploc to have it ready to go. Is there any preparation you do ahead of time to make this meal a little easier when you get out?
Well, it kind of depends on what I'm doing, what camping trip I'm I'm on. I don't always do sausage. A lot of times I'll do bacon and I'll fry it at home ahead of time and put it in a Ziploc baggie. The other thing you can do is, now that they make pre-cooked bacon, you can take pre-cooked bacon and then you don't have to deal with all that greasy mess of cooking the bacon ahead of time. So another thing you can do is, I have eggs. We'll be cooking eggs. I have them in the shell. But what you can do if you want is, you can actually shell your eggs and put them in a Ziploc baggie or a mason jar, and they'll last for 2 to 3 days that way, or you can freeze them. But I have my eggs in this little carrier so they don't get broke, and I'll be doing it the old-fashioned way, just cracking them as I go. But cracking them ahead of time or freezing them is a great option. I will say, if you choose to freeze them, you do have to separate the yolks from the whites when you freeze them, but you can put them back together then when you thaw them out and cook them.
Great tip, great tip. All right, we're gonna look back over here at Margaret. Look at that cooking, that looks delicious. So Margaret, do you have this freezer bag ready to go? It looks like
Yes. Yeah, so
in your koozie.
I put the water in there, and then this kind of acts as that little insulator so you can cook. And you let it sit for a little bit, and then once it's ready, you can see with the instant rice, you have a little bit of the walnuts. There's sugar in here, so it's kind of like an oatmeal kind of morning rice. You can add whatever you want, dried fruit, walnuts, any other little additives, cinnamon, nutmeg, something a little fall-like. And then, like I said, you can just take your spoon if you want, and you can eat it right out of the bag, or you can put it in a bowl, kind of whatever you'd like. So, and it's nice to share with friends and family. So, yeah, and it's all done. So all I added was the boiling water.
Well, that sure looks simple. So as you can see, Margaret's already basically finished cooking one meal and is kind of hands-free after she adds the boiling water. So she could be setting up her tent or, you know, enjoying the sounds of nature, while Angela and Jordan over here are still working pretty hard to keep those meals cooking. So that's one convenience of this style of cooking. And this is often the style you'll see or use when going backpacking, right? So when you have to carry all of your equipment with you, it's handy to have one of these lightweight stoves and these quick meals that don't require a lot of equipment. Any questions out there from the audience, Brent?
Well, not from the audience, but I have one for you, Angie.
Let's hear it.
Which style of cooking is your favorite?
Oh, gosh. That's hard. You know, when I go camping with my family, I actually will do all three styles in one trip, typically. So we might have a dinner of foil packets, but I often bring a small stove with me for my morning coffee because it's quick to get that water boiling. And then, as you can see, this 2-burner stove is so versatile that you can cook almost anything that you would cook at home right here while camping. So I'm kind of a gear snob. I've got it all. I try to do it all. But if I was backpacking, of course, I love this simple, lightweight freezer bag meal. Or let's look over here. So Margaret boiled up water using this jet boil. Is that right, Margaret? Is that how you got your water quick? And then what are you cooking on for your Thanksgiving meal?
So this is a different kind of backcountry stove. You have your little windscreen on it, but here is just a WinPro, and you just hook up your fuel, and then you'll ignite it, turn it on, and then it'll start to boil your water, and you have it ready in about 5 or 6 minutes or so. So there's a few different kinds of small backcountry stoves. This is the WinPro. It's a little bit bigger. Like you mentioned, this is the jet boil, and this is actually the stove part here. And then this is nice because your cup is all in one, so you don't necessarily have pots and pans with it. So if you're going out by yourself or just with one other person, this is a really great option to stay really lightweight. Another kind that we have is this little guy is a pocket rocket. So your stove is right here, and then you would hook this up to your fuel, and that's all that you need. So again, it's super lightweight, but you can still put a whole pot on here if you wanted to cook for 2 or 3 people. So yeah.
And Margaret, we do have a question. Terry Bond mentioned she misses you guys, but
Thanks,
she
Terry.
also wonders, is there something you can use to cook your freezer bag even faster? So I think putting the freezer bag inside of something, would that increase
Yeah.
the speed of?
Yeah, so this is a koozie that you can make from pretty much the insulating material, and we use some duct tape and then have a little bit of Velcro. So you'll put your boiling water in here, and that's how, when you let it sit, it kind of acts as like a small oven, and that's what will cook the rice or whatever you're doing in there. So we do sometimes different kind of noodles. You can make like a pad thai, and then like I said, anything with rice is really great. Put in some canned meat for your protein, and then this is all that you need. So one Ziploc bag, this guy, and your food, and you're set in just a few minutes.
Awesome, thanks. So Margaret's made her meals, ready to hit the trail. Meanwhile, Jordan's still hanging out over here at the Dutch oven. Let's check it out. So Jordan, you said this might take about 45 minutes to cook. Are you checking on it regularly, or you prefer to leave it closed so it'll keep cooking?
Right now, I'm preferring to leave it closed and let it cook, because if I take that lid off, I'm letting all that heat escape. So probably about a half hour, I'm going to check in on it. So that's actually coming up pretty soon, because I've had this going for a little bit. So we can check on that. But right now, I'm getting a little hungry. So I want to make another little snack right now. I want to make a pizza and a pie iron.
That sounds amazing. How are you going to do it?
So I've got right here, I've got some pizza crust. I cut it up to about 2.5-inch squares. I plopped it right down here in the pie iron. First I sprayed it with a little oil first. Then I put a little pizza sauce on it, put some mozzarella cheese, some pepperoni, and I put one on each side in there. Then I'm gonna put them together, just cook it over the fire for a couple minutes.
All right, let's see it in action.
And while you're putting that together, Mary Klunk has another question. Do you have to keep adding hot coals to the lid of the Dutch oven?
Yes, checking in on it and making sure that the coals are doing good is important. So I've been checking it and making sure it's going pretty good. And I actually got a nice shovel right here that I can grab those coals and put it on top of it without burning my hands or having to use anything and getting too close to the fire.
Awesome. So this pizza that you're getting ready to cook, about how long will that take?
I'm gonna try it for 5 and then check on it, and just keep checking on it and seeing how it goes, because this right here is gonna cook a lot faster.
And with that pie iron, you're doing a pizza. What other things could you use that for?
As I said, it's a pie iron, so you could do pies or anything. I like peach and apple pies in there, and I can actually, instead of using like dough or anything like that, you can actually use a piece of bread on each side and then just smush it in there with the stuffing. So it makes it really fast and quick and easy, and it's pretty good too with what you got when you're camping.
Awesome. Well, we'll come check back on that. That sounds delicious.
And everybody, I want to relay a message from Eric Dahlstrom. He says, "Hey guys."
Hey, Eric.
What's up, Eric?
All right, let's see what Angela's got going on over here. It looks like the sausage has been taken off of the stove, and a great way to keep it warm.
Put some aluminum foil over it. I have it on a hot pad too. And I obviously brought this cast iron from home because I'm car camping, so that's easy. But I have this heat-proof glove so that I can grab the handle and it doesn't hurt me. I have the hash browns that are cooked over here in aluminum foil, trying to keep those warm. I've been cracking eggs over here, and I have my trash right here next to me. So as I crack those eggs, those go in here. I've been doing some other prep to get ready for when we eat make our burritos, cutting the limes. We'll have cheese, cilantro, the torch, and the salsa over here.
Wow.
And in preparation of this trip, I knew that I wanted to do the eggs and butter, so I put some butter in a little container so I'm not carrying sticks of butter. I did the hash browns in coconut oil, so I just repurposed a spice jar to put some coconut oil in
Angela,
there.
while you're talking about hash browns, Abby wants to know if you started with frozen hash browns.
Yes, the hash browns were frozen.
I think we've got a box of them here. You can see these frozen hash browns.
Yes.
And Angie, what are some other tips, and Angela, that you guys have done to prepare at home to make it as easy as possible when you get to camp? I know you've touched on a few things, but what are some other things you've done at home that make it super easy?
Well, one thing for me that makes camp cooking really easy is I have my camp cooking bins. These are not, none of these dishes come from my kitchen. So everything I'm using here stays in my camp bin. And then that way I'm not having to rethink what I might need. I have can openers in here, towels you can see, I have containers with lids, I have the little grocery sacks to use for trash, my plates, all of that stuff. So it's really nice because then when I know I'm gonna be camping and I just grab the bin and I go. I even keep like the coconut oil and olive oil and things like that in there. Obviously like butter and other things you can't, but you can keep your spices in there and they can just be ready to go.
Great tips. Yes, I think any food preparation that you can do ahead of time is really convenient, right? So Margaret, with her Ziploc freezer bag meal, already had all the stuff in there before she headed out for her trip. And same with Jordan, had already chopped up all those veggies and stuff at home with the convenience of your large cutting board and nice knife that might not come with you on your camping trip.
I know on our last trip we had dehydrated soups, and so then it was just about basically bringing those back into the water when you got to camp, and it was super easy and good. So that was another easy thing to do.
Yeah.
If you have a dehydrator.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And any of that instant stuff, so that rice that cooks a little faster, some of those things will save you time while cooking. All right, let's see what Margaret's doing over here. The meal that she's cooking on the WinPro here is what we call a one-pot meal. So, yeah, what's the convenience of that, Margaret?
So this way, all I have to do is pretty much boil the water, and then everything will go in all at once. It saves on extra stuff that you're having to carry when you're out on the backcountry, and also, you know, just general cleanup. But like the pot is still big enough that we can both share in everything versus having it on the jet boil. So I was able just to throw in all the stuffing, throw in the meat if you'd like, all the extras, and then mix it up, put the pot on, and you're good.
And about how long does this meal take to cook?
It's about 7 to 10 minutes or so. So it's already done, and I'm just getting my water boiled so I can have a nice hot drink while I wait.
Wow, so 2 meals already done, ready to go.
Yep.
Super efficient, super quick.
Yep.
Some advantages to this style.
So Angie, where could someone go camp locally to try out these different techniques?
Great question, Brett. So you can camp locally in your Five Rivers MetroParks. So if you go online 24/7, you can reserve a campsite, and we have several open right now and available for camping. We're at Inglewood currently, so there are campsites available here. Possum Creek has one open right now. Be sure to check due to COVID restrictions. Some campsites are currently closed, but hopefully will reopen in the near future. So a lot of people don't realize that we do have camping right here in Five Rivers MetroParks. And then if you're interested in doing some backcountry camping and maybe trying out some of these techniques that Margaret's been showing us, we also have 3 primitive backcountry campsites along the Twin Valley Trail in Germantown and Twin Creek. So that's a great opportunity to get out, test out some of these cooking skills, and be able to hike in all of your food. So those campsites are only accessible by foot.
And could you try out any of Jordan's techniques at the backcountry campsites on the Twin Valley Trail?
I'm glad you asked, Brent. You should always look ahead of time, but when you're planning a camping trip, to see if there's any specific regulations. So on our backcountry campsites, we do not allow campfires. So that's where it'd be great to, bring out your small backpacking stove and use some of these techniques there. Now, Jordan's campfire cooking is great to do in one of our parks. It's also great to do in your own backyard. So these cold nights that we're starting to get, you can, head out and test out some of your skills. So Jordan, let's check on this pizza pie iron you've got going on. It looks nice and brown. Cheese is melted. Would you say it's ready?
I would say that is ready to eat.
And
It's
so
nice and
simple.
cooked, melted cheese, warm, gooey sauce. It is ready to go.
That is great. So we've got the Dutch oven still cooking. I'm guessing your foil packets are probably getting close to done.
Yeah, I think they're almost done actually. So check on one of them. The other one probably got another 20 minutes or so. But
And the pie iron. So lots of ways, that you can cook over a campfire once you have your hot coals going. So let's see Jordan test it out and see if it actually is as good as it looks.
And Eric Dahlstrom says, looks
After it
yummy.
cools down, maybe we won't make him burn his mouth.
Oh,
Molto bene.
And Mary Klunk has a question.
Yes.
And her question is, who's running that camera? I mean, it's such a smooth camera today. That's Kelly Kingery behind the camera today.
Yes, thank you, Kelly, for your fine camera work. All right, so I'm curious about these. I've heard a lot about these breakfast burritos over here that Angela's working on. Seeing the ingredients makes me really want to try one. Let's see how it's going. Wow, look at those eggs. That was quick.
Eggs are cooking. I have some tortillas here in foil. I want to warm those up because it's a chilly day. So this is actually a lid to one of my camp pots. I'm just going to use that, and we're going to swap this out and try to get those warmed up. We'll add these hash browns over here to the ones that are warming. I'm going to turn the eggs off because those are done. And I'm going to put the eggs in a bowl with a lid to keep those warm.
So I've seen most of it. Can you tell us all the ingredients of this burrito?
Yes. So it's really up to you. You know, some people don't want meat in theirs. You could add other vegetables. You could cut those up and saute them if you wanted. My go-to is bacon, egg. The hash brown is a must. It's crispy. Salsa, cheese, and cilantro. And cilantro is kind of a luxury when you're camping.
All right, looking good.
So I'm going to put these in here with a lid to keep them warm, so we're ready to go. But we are so close now.
All right. So something else to be thinking about when you are cooking and while you're out camping is cleanup. So you can see some methods have more dishes created than others, but Angela has this really awesome, it collapses down, but it's a tube-in system for washing your dishes. So you can use soap and water in one side and then use the other side for rinsing that off. There's smaller options when you're backpacking. So Margaret could have with her this smaller kitchen sink, and it again collapses down but opens up into a nice little bowl that she could use for washing out her pot. And using a little bit of Dr. Bronner's or Camp Suds or some biodegradable soap is best. And you want to make sure that you're always doing that at least 200 feet away from any water source. So these are great for hand washing or dishwashing.
And Sue would like the camera to kind of show off those stoves Margaret's been using a little closer, if you could zoom in on that.
So both of these stoves that Margaret's been using are canister stoves. So they run off the same type of fuel. The Wind Pro here is nice for a larger pot, like she's been cooking this Thanksgiving dinner. It's got a lower profile, nice and wide to balance that pot. The Jet Boil that she used to boil water with for that freezer bag meal is great for one person, and it gets water boiling in about 2.5 minutes. So it's super efficient option.
And then, like Angie was saying, it's also really easy for cleaning when you have the Jet Boil because it is your little one pot. But it's also nice because it's all connected, and then you can also have like a nice little handle on it. So yeah, if you're in the backcountry and it's just you or a friend, I would probably suggest to have something like that.
And if you don't have a Jet Boil, but you have another pot, you can create your own little koozie here to keep it insulated and to be able to hold it once you have hot boiling water in there without, hurting your hands. Other options for stoves in the backpacking world are lightweight alcohol stoves. Those are really great, lightweight, inexpensive. You can make them at home. And the biggest disadvantage to alcohol stoves, they're a little less efficient, and they're really only good for boiling water. So that would have worked great for Margaret's rice meal, but there's no options for simmering those for doing something a little bit more elaborate. So as you can see, there's quite the variety of options when you're cooking while you're camping. So
we have a question over here, a comment for Jordan. Well, it's a comment related to his cooking, but Tom Helbig says, "Well done, crew. This is fun. Love and miss y'all." He says his brothers and him would go through loaves of bread eating pizza sandwiches.
Nice.
Yes, once you have one, it's really hard to stop, isn't it?
It is.
He had a double sandwich maker, and they'd always debate who got to use it in his world. So I've never seen a double pie iron maker.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, actually, they're side by side, aren't they? Doubles, yes. So that's pretty cool. You can double down on your pie iron. But here's a question. Maybe this is for Angie. What do you recommend doing with empty fuel canisters? Not from Jordan's cooking style, but from over here in Margaret and Angela's cooking style.
Good question. So with these canisters, unfortunately they're not refillable. So if you had a liquid fuel, you could just refill them. With these, they create a little tool that will screw right on the top. It threads in there, and then you can puncture it. And once you've done that, you can actually recycle these. So that's pretty nice. So you can at least recycle them if you can't reuse them. Good question.
And I know I take mine down to Montgomery County Solid Waste and drop them off on Saturday mornings or Tuesdays. They'll take your canisters if you're looking for a local place to drop them off.
Yep. Yeah, great question.
And Mary Clunk has a very important question.
Let's hear it, Mary.
Okay. Are you all for hire?
I mean, maybe that's a new program idea, right? We'll come cook for you.
We'll do our glamping program where we
Glamping.
come in and
Yeah.
set up the tents and cook.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so we've got this foil packet there. It's been cooking for a while. Jordan's going to show us how it looks. Oh, wow, that meat definitely looks cooked. The veggies nice and soft. Yes, you can poke a fork in them. I'm going to make Jordan burn his mouth for the second time today.
So good.
Jordan, do you ever add any oil or spices, or do you feel like you don't even need it?
There's not too much oil you have to add to this right here. I actually got some 80-20 beef, so it has a little more fat in there. So putting that on top is just gonna simmer down and get all in there and get juicy down in there, get the meats and the juices in there. Gonna keep it pretty moist down inside here. A little salt and pepper is about all you need in this right here.
That's great. So you've got potatoes, carrots, onions. You can really add any veggies you want it in there. Jordan is not going to go home hungry today.
This is a good one.
And how's our Dutch oven doing? Jordan, if we have somebody that's new to Dutch oven cooking or maybe a little intimidated, do you have any tips or tricks for people that are really just getting started in that world?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just trying it out with some charcoal first before you throw it right in the fire is definitely a good thing to do. And like you're saying, if you have your pie irons too, if you burn this right here, you can always cook a few pizza pies in there, and having a backup plan is always a good idea too. But I think we're ready to pull this off the fire and check it out.
All right.
So I got my fire glove on, and I got this handy tool. It's gonna be able to grab it, because if I just grab that hot metal in the fire, it's probably gonna burn me. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this tool to grab it and get it out of there. And I'm gonna grab the lid, pull it off.
Wow, look at that.
Oh yeah, so those biscuits are cooked up all nice in there. A little brown a little bit in some areas, but they're doing pretty good. And I can see my gravy in there sizzling with some chicken in there and all those veggies. It's ready to eat.
That looks awesome. So Jordan, what other types of meals work well in a Dutch oven?
You can do just about anything you would do in an oven at home. I've done all types of things, from pizzas in there, just putting it right in the bottom. You can do cobblers too, and desserts. Just putting your cooking in there, putting your pie filling in the bottom, then putting some cake and butter on top of that right there. It's just really good. You can do all sorts of things in these Dutch ovens.
Awesome. Well, we'll let that cool down, and we'll come back and have you try it out for us. Let's head over to Burrito Land.
We have a question for Margaret.
Oh, we'll be right there, Ian.
It's really for all of them, but people are asking about recipes. Can they get recipes for these meals?
Yes. After this, we will post the different recipes for the Dutch oven, the 2-burner, and then the backcountry stoves. And we might post a few of our other favorites that we do during our backcountry cooking and gourmet class.
Awesome. Yes, look for those in the comments. comments, and feel free to share any of your favorite recipes with our watchers today.
Alright, Ange. Alright, so I've got a little buffet set up here once everything was finished. So you and your friends can walk through. I've got the tortillas. I have the hash browns here. Like I said, that's a real, that's what really makes these burritos kick. This little tool is fun. Always look for multi-purpose tools for your camping. So these are two separate utensils. Look at that. They store like this, but you can also use them as tongs. So these just kind of, even though it's car camping, it's helpful if your items can be multi-purpose. So I've got the eggs here. I have the sausage ready to go, and I went ahead, even though that bacon was pre-cooked, I went ahead and warmed it up in the skillet since I had time and a free burner. So I'll add a little bit of that because I am a meat eater. And then over here I have my cheese ready to go. Probably want to be a little bit cleaner than this. So we don't
I mean,
get
if
it
you're not
all
hungry
over.
watching this.
And my salsa.
And there's a question out there. What's your favorite salsa, Angela?
Oh man. I mean, my favorite salsa has got to be like authentic restaurant salsa, but for camping purposes, I usually go with a jarred salsa rather than like the deli salsa from the restaurant. But this one is from a local store that's really good.
And we have a comment from Brent, and he says that looks really good.
Yeah, I got my lime here to squirt on it. I have my cilantro. I haven't prepared that ahead of time, but I'm just going to take a pinch of it because I am a big cilantro fan. Get my lime on there. I'd already sanitized my hands, but I always carry lots of towels and hot pads too in my camping bin, as well as the trash bags. Those are important. And so now this guy's ready to go.
Wow, that looks amazing. And it's, you know, sometimes I think people think camp food has to be boring or ramen or, you know, spaghetti, but you could really cook. I mean, Aunt, do you ever make that at home? Because that looks amazing.
You know what? I don't make these at home ever. You totally could, but for me, it's something that is just like I've always cooked it while camping. And so it's kind of special in that way. And I feel like it wouldn't taste as good or would lose that kind of euphoric dining experience if I cooked them at home.
Yes,
So,
yes, I can see that.
but this is great. Like even if I'm camping and I'm just camping to spend the night and get on the road again in the morning, you can pull this out, especially if you have your bacon already made, and you can cook this up really quickly. and
Yeah,
get on the road.
I'm impressed with how quick you whipped all of this up on this 2-burner stove. And it
Yes,
looks amazing.
yeah, and you know, if I were actually doing this, I'd have my one of the stoves like Margaret has, and that's where I'd have my coffee going. So, like you had said, you'll use multiple varieties of cooking methods in
Yeah.
one trip. So.
You can never have too many stoves going at once, right? And you can
Yeah.
never leave out the coffee.
You
in my
can't leave
opinion.
out the coffee.
And we have a question for Jordan over here.
All right.
And while we're walking over here, Eric does wish everyone a happy National Take a Hike Day. So happy National Take a Hike Day. And
Great
the
day for it.
question from Mary Klump. She asks, what's the best way to clean a Dutch oven and not interfere with the seasoning of the pot? And I think for some, they may never know what seasoning of the pot means, so if you could describe that.
That is a great question. So most like cast iron or Dutch ovens, you actually have a layer on the inside that's all blackened in there, and so that's where it's called seasoning. So if you go ahead and you just like dump your soap and water in there, you're probably gonna scrape that seasoning off of it and make it so that it's no longer non-stick. Like think about the layer that's inside like a Teflon or whatever else. This right here is actually baked into it by like the oil and stuff in there that gets baked into it. So you don't actually want to use soap and water to clean these out. I prefer once you wipe it out with a paper towel or something like that, and then going back in with maybe some hot water and really scrubbing stuff out. Then if you really need to scour inside of there, if you put salt and then use a potato, you can actually get a lot of stuff out just in using those two methods right there. So it's really effective doing that. And if you do actually scrape a whole bunch of it out, you can actually just re-season it by putting a little Crisco or anything in there and then putting it back over the fire for a little bit, or baking it in your oven at home.
Great. So Jordan, did you try it out?
I did, and it is very delicious.
That mask gets in the way of gourmet food.
Mm.
I think I want to go camping with Jordan and Angela and Margaret. Maybe take them all with me. All right. Any final words, Jordan, from the campfire before we head back over?
I would say that this is actually great because you get to stay busy and you get to stay warm next to the fire. So for a cold day, cooking by the fire is perfect.
Awesome. All right. We'll head over to Margaret and Angela enjoying their meals. Take any last minute questions from the audience. Margaret's been done eating probably for half an hour now.
Yep.
But is it as good, you know? So pros
it
and
was
cons.
just as good.
So
It was
Margaret,
delicious.
when you go car camping
Yeah.
and you have the ability to carry all this heavy gear, do you still choose this lighter weight option most of the time?
Most of the time, yeah. It's just simple, and I feel like that's kind of my enjoyable moment because then I can be out, like you said, and do other things and not have to worry about the cleanup and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoy it a little bit more. Jordan is right. It is nice to have a fire maybe on a day a little chillier like today, but I mean, I can just hold my nice warm cup too. So
And you can have a fire going for warmth, right, while you're cooking on your small stove.
yes.
So how is that Thanksgiving meal? Did you try it out?
Oh, I did. I already had a whole bowl.
A whole
And
bowl.
it was
Look at that. I can
amazing.
see.
So, and this is the second little helping, but there's more. So that's the good thing about these pots is it's shareable. So, yeah, get out there and have some Thanksgiving on your little backcountry step
On the Twin Valley Trail.
on the Twin Valley Trail.
All right, we'll check in with Ange now that she's eating that amazing burrito.
It's so good. Just like it always is, and the crunch of those potatoes really gives it that deliciousness.
Anything
Extra
else you want to
special.
share about your style of cooking here? Useful tips or tricks?
Yeah, you know, I just saw this down here. This came out of my bin. Obviously, it's like a used laundry detergent container, but I usually fill this with water ahead of a camping trip or when I get to the campsite. You can set it here on the table, and it's really nice because you have this little, you can wash your hands really easily this way at your picnic table because you don't always have the luxury of that. So this is, can come in really handy, and you can also, I've seen people like set this up with a dowel rod on top where they have their paper towels even. So just, you know, ways to make it more accessible and give you some of the comforts of cooking at home.
And Angie, that brings a question to the forefront as we wrap things up and look at kind of leave no trace. When we're talking about soap, and some people see a fire and they want to burn trash, what are some tips that we should all keep in mind for leave no trace camping relative to cooking?
Yeah, so in your camp kitchen, some important things to be thinking about. Trash, number one. So Angela pointed out here, she keeps a trash bag really convenient so that it's easy for her to dispose of any waste, and then she's not tempted to throw that in the campfire, burn that. So we should really be carrying out any trash that we bring in, should be taken it home with us or disposed of in a proper trash receptacle. And so, you know, some people think, well, it's just paper, you know, it's okay to burn this, but often that paper has food residue on it, and if it's not completely burned, it can still attract wildlife to that campsite. And that's the last thing we want to do, is have wildlife sort of accustomed to coming to camp. The same thing goes with, you know, food scraps and things as you're cooking, making sure that all lands in the trash can and it's not hanging out under the picnic table or left behind. So making sure you do a good job of cleaning up and staying organized so you're not leaving a lot of trash or food waste behind. And then, you know, we talked about using soap always 200 feet away from a water source, which is, you know, really more important if you're backpacking. If you're at a campsite, you're probably in a good spot. But if you're disposing of your gray water, so that's the water maybe you've used to wipe out your Dutch oven or clean out your frying pans or pots, often there will be a gray water receptacle at a front country kind of car campsite. If there's not, a few ways to dispose of it include straining out those food chunks and then dispersing your water, making sure that, you know, all of those food chunks are thrown in the trash, so again, wildlife won't be attracted to that area. You can also, in the backpacking world, you know, Margaret could clean out this pot, with water and drink it, right? So not using any soap, but just kind of rinse it with her hands, drink that Thanksgiving smoothie, and then the next time she uses her pot, bring it to a boil, and that'll do just as good at sanitizing as using soap. So washing and carrying out trash are kind of the big keys in your camp kitchen to follow Leave No Trace.
And I think that wraps it up, Angie.
All right.
We've had a great afternoon here, and I hope people picked up a good tip or two to enjoy outdoor cooking.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Check back later in the comments. We will add a link to those recipes that we shared today. Have a good